Episode 1 was really great. Got a chance to learn more about the performance wheel and how important it is. But this time I wanted to go a little deeper into some cool stories, find out about John's early coaching, and then also discuss some cool stuff that's worked with his NHL clients, one in particular.
Another guy that's very close to me, John Stevenson, who's my coach in junior.
We're often given, a manual, how to use the GoPro. Kids get it, their parents get it. I don't know about you, but in all my years of schooling, I was never given a manual how to operate the space that goes, between my ears.
Yeah.
My job is to coach myself out of the job. I use this phrase that there's no person, place, or thing that can make us feel anything. I had 2 goalies a couple of years ago that got traded, literally on the exact same day. One got traded from the AJ to the BC, and one got traded from the BC to the AJ. And their careers went in polar opposite directions. What I want them to understand is a trade, literally, what is a trade? It's an exchange from one team to another. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, what can determine how a person feels about that? Well, it's not the person, place, or thing, or the situation. It's our thought about it. And so one of the skills you mentioned is a skill called active awareness. And basically what it does is we can have a thought and a feeling. For example, I can have a thought and a feeling about the pandemic right now without that thought and feeling having me. So it's not that I don't have control over my thoughts and emotions, but what I do have control over is how I choose to respond to them. What it teaches us is that we're not our thoughts, we're not our feelings, we're not our sensations. So for example, if I came in today and someone parked in my paid parking stall,
Yes.
It's not that I don't have a thought or a feeling or a sensation going through my body at that time. That's what I'm experiencing in the moment. So for example, a goalie, prior to a game, right, they can have, anxious thoughts, anxious feelings. They can have, sensations going through their body, butterflies. But no one stuck a needle in them and drained all their goalie powers.
Yeah.
So despite what they're thinking, feeling, and sensing, they can still go and do what they need to do that day, and that's stop pucks. And so what active awareness teaches us is that we can have a different relationship. So I can have a thought, a feeling, and sensation, but because I'm aware of it, I can step back and now make a better choice as to how I want to respond to those thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And what often happens is for a lot of people and clients is they get this thought and they jump into that thought and then they get swept up by it. And then they start to have what I'll call in generalities this negative emotion. But this is where the mindset of active awareness, that we're not our thoughts, we're not our feelings, we're not our sensations. That's a hard concept. How I learned mental skills way back when I was 17. My goalie coach at that time said, why don't we go on the ice before main practice and let's go work on some things. And I was like, yes. I come out of the dressing room and I'm about to step on the ice and the ice surface is pitch black. And I'm a goalie and I'm supposed to stop black pucks and I'm like, I literally can't see 2 feet in front of me. I'm like, what's going on? And then next thing I know, so I'm on the ice just kind of stretching, and then next thing I know, my goalie coach comes out on the ice in his full gear. And this guy was a monstrous man, 6'7", 315 pounds. And he walks out onto the ice and he says this phrase, and this whole conversation that I'm going to talk to you about right now, a lot of people don't believe me when I talk about this, but this is what literally changed my goaltending career, if you want to call it. He says, Johnny, you ever heard this phrase before? I said, what's that, coach? Hey, there's a minute left in the game. The goalie's going to get a shutout. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you just said that. And I think for all the goalies out there, we all know that as soon as you hear that phrase, it's almost like you get jinxed, you get this curse. And he turns to me and says, well, why does the goalie get scored on? And I said, well, because the goalie lost his focus. And he turned to me, and I'll never forget this. He said, no, Johnny, in fact, his focus got better. And I'm sitting there, Cody, going, okay, this doesn't make sense. His performance is getting worse, but you're saying his focus is getting better. And I just couldn't understand this. Well, next thing I know, from behind his back, he pulls out this old big coal miner's helmet. And for a lot of the people who have never seen this, it looks like a construction helmet with a big, huge floodlight on it. And he says, Johnny, you have to think of your focus like a flashlight. And that wherever your flashlight goes, that's where you're sending 100% of your attention. And so I'm listening to this, and I'm still not understanding it. So he says, let's go down to the far end. I'm going to get you to put the helmet on, and let's imagine that we're playing against our arch rival. There's a minute left in the game, and we're up 1-0. Now remember, I can't see 2 feet in front of me, okay? So sure enough, I put this helmet on, and I get into my stance, line up to the face-off dot on my glove side. And he says, Johnny, right now, where's your flashlight pointed? I said, it's on the dot, coach. He goes, what happens if your flashlight goes to the scoreboard? Because you're thinking about getting that first win, posting that shutout. If your flashlight is there, guess where it's not? And literally for me, Cody, that was the awakening of mental skills. Can you, one, show me how to fire this up? Please and thank you.
He owns the equipment, but doesn't know how to use it.
And we could joke about it, like we often get a user manual to turn our phone on, turn a computer on, but we don't get a user manual for this, and that's the whole point of this program. This is a true story. Many years ago, I was the goalie coach for the Saskatoon Blades. And at the time, I was working with Braden Holtby. And one of the drills, as I mentioned, this concept of the flashlight, that when you're making a save, we got to really get that beam laser-like focused and very narrow. So one of the drills that I gave Braden was we had to bounce a ball on the blade of the stick. I remember this, and I'm not quite sure if Braden remembers this, but at first he was kind of like, okay, Johnny, where the heck am I going to do this in a game? Now, interesting. Do you remember, Cody, the save that he made in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Who doesn't remember that save?
And this is what made Braden so good. So he literally sat there, and the drill was 10 off the blade, 10 off the paddle, 10 off the paddle, 10 off the blade, and then be able to do the final. And this is something that he really worked on. And what he started to see is that his ability to track the puck and watch it from the moment it left the blade right into his body dramatically improved by just doing a simple little skill like this. And for some of the younger guys, this is a really difficult drill because it really requires good, strength in the shoulders, strength in the arm, strength in the forehand. And as goofy as this may sound, a simple little drill like this, a lot of goalies may not see the benefits of it initially, but can make a big difference in terms of them, at the end of the day, stopping more pucks.